Super Mario Maker 2 has been out for over 4 years. In those 4 years, the community discovered countless glitches, built insane contraptions, and created levels so difficult that only very few people on this planet have the necessary skills to beat them. So with me finally awake again after my long beauty rest, I thought it might be a fun idea to take a look at some of the discoveries the Super Mario Maker 2 community had over the last couple of years. There's just a problem. You know, I'm a bit out of the loop. I haven't been following all the Super Mario Maker news and discoveries of the last 2 years that closely, because I was canonically asleep. Here is where this gets interesting. I was recently exchanging a bunch of mails with everyone's favorite crow, Crow, and I asked him if he wouldn't mind sending me an overview over the most significant recent discoveries. To which he replied something along the lines of, "Sure thing, let me see what I can do." And then the Mad Crow sent me dozens and dozens of links to discoveries on Twitter, even more minutes of discoveries over on YouTube, detailed write-ups over tons of stuff that has happened in the community previously, a 135-page long Google document covering different Mario Maker contraptions, and a 22-side long thesis paper that just discusses the randomization function in Mario Maker 2, alongside tons of other info. So, first things first, huge thanks to Crow and everyone in his lovely Discord server, especially Louis, for taking the time to write all of this up for me. We wouldn't have this video without their help. But second, I can't possibly cover all of this in a single video. Just getting an overview over all the new tech took me an entire day of work. To put it mildly, the Super Mario Maker 2 community has been actually surprisingly busy. So instead of covering all of this today, we're going to do something slightly different. We're going to focus on a couple of key techs that allow for a bunch of interesting things and work in the current version of the game. We'll first add a new entry onto our dangerous list of evil by talking about grounding. We'll make goodies go invisible by exploiting Super Mario Maker's drawing limit. We'll chat about a weird glitch called hop chop entanglement. We will discover one of the biggest scientific breakthrough since the invention of the wheel. We will take a short detour to talk about another Nintendo creator community that had a lot of interesting things happen recently, and we'll take a look at the Shino pipe tech, an interesting glitch that not only allows us to swim through air, but that also allows for crazy time traveling shenanigans. So are you ready? Let's do this! Our journey into the depths of insane Super Mario Maker contraptions starts with something very simple. It all begins with Boom Boom. On first glance, this Boom Boom appears to be an ordinary Boom Boom, you know? He's exceptionally angry, he swings his arms desperately, trying to hurt us, he even gets dizzy. But that is just on first glance, because on second glance, we can see that something strange is going on, something unexpected. Boom Boom isn't moving. Even if we damage the little troublemaker, he stays in place and isn't able to reach us. Something weird is going on. Something is preventing him from moving around. So I know what at least one of you is wondering right now. What is grounding Boom Boom? Well, it is hop chop entanglement. So let's talk about hop chop entanglement. Check this out. Here we have a Koopa in a car drop down onto a question block that contains a hop chop. Once we start the scene, this happens. The Koopa becomes immobilized and can't drive the car forward. This works with pretty much every enemy. We can trap bullying bullies like this. We can immobilize hop chops, Goombas, and of course, Boom Boom. So what exactly is immobilizing those enemies here? Well, let's watch this again, but this time in slow motion. Once we start the contraption, our enemy drops down and hits the question block. The question block, however, is triggered the exact same second the enemy hits it, which spawns the flying hop chop. This hop chop now hits the enemy the exact second it lands. Normally, this would cause the enemy to bounce off of the hop chop, but since the enemy lands on a block at the exact same moment, the game becomes confused and entangles the two enemies. The two are now bound for life. Quite literally actually, because as long as the hop chop is in the air, the enemy can't move anymore. The only way to end its grounded state is to actually kill the hop chop. This removes the entanglement and makes Boom Boom move again. Hooray! We can visualize the entanglement that is going on with a setup like this. Here the dry bone becomes entangled as soon as the game loads. The spring then slowly drops down onto this block on the ground. Check out what happens once we start this scene. Yep, the dry bone only bounces off of the hop chop once the hop chop finally lands. it bounces off with a huge delay. There are a couple of interesting ways to use this. If we change the setup just a bit and build a contraption like this one, for example, then we're suddenly able to ground gigantic spiked balls, which also allows us to have immobile spiked balls in a level that only start to move once an input is triggered. Here, an on-off block. That's a really fun little trick, but entanglement is actually useful for something else as well, for something truly useful. Take a look at this. The 3D world style doesn't have shells by default, which is a huge problem. Shells are the main way we carry signals from A to B in Super Mario Maker. It's such a standard way of transferring information that it is often referred to as shelltricity. In the 3D world style, however, we don't have access to shelltricity by default. We always have to build a small contraption first, whenever we want to use a moving shell in a contraption. This here is an often used setup for this. Here the bob arm simply goes boom when the game starts, which gives us a shell to work with. So contraptions like this are great on the surface, but they sadly also come with a problem. Namely, if we do not immediately work with the shell, then the spiny in it becomes bored after a while, leaves the shell mode and becomes a normal walking enemy again. Normal spinies can't carry signals, which is a huge problem. You know, sometimes the contraption requires us to have a shell lying around for an extended amount of time, and for the shell to only become active after certain conditions are met. This contraption, for example, theoretically starts an on-off switch clock as soon as a P-switch is triggered. Stuff like this just pops up over and over, but in the 3D world style, this contraption just doesn't work because the dumb spiny always gets up after a while, ruining the party. So how do we solve this little walking spiked problem? Well, here's what happens if we first hop chop entangle the spiny. The spiny hits the hop chop drops into the abyss, which makes sure that it never lands and keeps the entanglement active forever. And, well, would you look at this? Nothing happens. The spiny now stays in his shell indefinitely, which suddenly makes such a contraption viable in the 3D world style. Hooray! That's an incredibly useful little trick for the 3D world style. But the 3D world style isn't the only style that has grounding. It is also possible to ground things in the traditional game styles, even if they don't feature hop chops. Here Mario finds himself in the middle of a clown car. But this clown car isn't like the other clown cars, because something in this clown car isn't working right. For whatever reason, this clown car is grounded and isn't able to fly. To make matters even worse, the level is called Don't Leave the Glitched Clown Car, which makes Mario suspect that something horrible might happen if he tries to leave it. But, you know, on the other hand, the floor hasn't turned into a shiny trap in ages, and this broken clown car certainly can't be the best way to make it through the stage. Maybe if he just makes a tiny hop out of the clown car, nobody will notice. Maybe he's able to cheat. So Mario takes all his courage and makes a hop so tiny that he's sure nobody would ever notice, which transforms the floor below him into shiny yet deadly coins and drops Mario into his doom. He'll never learn it, will he? With this we can add a new entry onto our dangerous list of evil. Don't leave the glitched clown car. So how the fuzzy did this work? Well, it's actually surprisingly simple. Above the clown car are simple anti-jumping forms hidden that are set up to trigger once Mario is one block higher than the clown car. That's the easy part. The much more interesting part is how we got the clown car grounded. And the answer with a contraption like this. Yep, it's that simple. Grounding a clown car doesn't require any complicated entanglements, and it doesn't require us to build a huge contraption. We just have to drop it onto an activated node block. This always breaks the clown car, permanently. Broken clown cars stay broken if we put in a Koopaling. They won't work if we put in a normal enemy. We can fly with them, we can leave them, they stay broken. The only way to fix them is to run them over a healing spring, which catapults them back into the air and makes the clown car remember what flying was again. So grounding clown cars is fun and all, but it is actually not the reason why this tech is so interesting and incredibly powerful. The thing that makes grounding such an exceptional tech is something different. Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce you to a Super Mario Maker breakthrough equally important to Mario Maker as nuclear fusion to our own world? May I introduce you to a contraption so powerful that it may change how we think about the Mushroom Kingdom forever? Gentle ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce you to the grounded Iggy shell. This little contraption here is one of the most insanely useful contraptions in all of Super Mario Maker 2. Shout out to BB Mario Maker 2 for finding this insane scientific breakthrough. I honestly do not know how this discovery did not make it into the national news. So what does a grounded Iggy shell contraption do, one might ask? Check this out. Once we load the game, Iggy triggers this node block that contains a power block. Usually this power block would drop down, but below it is a spike ball that normally would bounce upwards, but is entrapped below the power. Because of this, the power block now jumps upwards. Next, the spike ball hits a node block and Iggy at the same time, which causes the ball to break and Iggy to... well, it causes Iggy to retreat into his shell. Forever. Iggy is now so traumatized that he decides to never ever leave his shell again. And this is why this is such a scientific breakthrough. Ladies and gentlemen, Iggy is a Koopaling. Koopalings are globally loaded, which means this shell is globally loaded too. This here is a globally loaded shell. Grounded Iggy shells allow us to have up to 7 global shells in a stage at once. Shells that never despawn, no matter how far away we run from them. Global shells give us access to global shelltricity. Until now, we always had to make sure that shells travel over global ground if we aren't close to them, which was quite complicated and expensive to set up and made a lot of things impossible, since the shells disappear as soon as they leave the ground. Grounded Iggy shells need nothing like this. Take a look at this simple mechanic. Here we have a simple on-off clock that we want to deactivate for the duration a P-switch is active and that we want to turn on again afterwards. If we run this contraption with a normal shell, then the contraption breaks as soon as we aren't close. It deloads. If we build something like this with a grounded Iggy shell, however, then it works flawlessly, no matter how far away we are. Or take this setup here. Here we entrap the grounded Iggy shell next to a P-switch and an on-off trigger, which is an insanely cool and simple contraption. So what does a contraption like this do, one might ask? Well, it kills Mario as soon as he walks over this line. It's a proximity trigger that activates as soon as Mario is about 20 blocks away from the P-switch. Because once Mario is that far away, the P-switch unloads, which basically means it disappears. This opens up the way for the globally loaded Iggy shell and activates the globally loaded on-off switch, which is an insanely useful little trick for everyone but Mario, who just took an unwanted lava bath. Grounded Iggy shells might be one of the most useful discoveries since the invention of fire. As for little less useful discoveries, let's have a chat about something different. You might recall the ELB and ELC, the different entity limits that prevent enemies or goodies from spawning once filled. Simply explained, the game can only handle a certain amount of enemies at once. Once this limit is full, the game refuses to spawn new enemies, which we can manipulate to do interesting things, like activating pipes once we hit a P-switch, or transforming the floor below Mario's feet into shiny and deadly coins once he kills an enemy. Well, as it turns out, those entity limits aren't the only ones in the game. There's another entity limit hidden within Super Mario Maker 2, a much more useless entity limit. Here Mario finds himself trapped between two conveyor belts. Above him is a terrifying pipe contraption that constantly spawns in new Mecha Koopas only to murder them a second later. After a while, the ride comes to an end. The Mecha Koopa destruction suddenly stops and Mario finds himself in the middle of a seemingly impossible room. To his right is a locked door and to his left is... well, there is nothing to his left, that's kind of the point. There is nothing in this room, but a pit and a locked door. The key nowhere to be seen. So how is our poor and trapped favorite plumber supposed to escape from this locked room? Puzzle time. Can you figure out how Mario is supposed to escape? And time's over. Here's the answer. All that Mario has to do is to unlock the locked door and to walk through. He already had the key. The key was just invisible, which is not only a philosophical testament for the thematic death of Super Mario Maker 2. You know, Mario always had the means to make his own ends, they just were invisible to him. Pikachu! But it is also a statement on how broken the game is. So how the fuzzy did we make the key invisible, one might ask? Well, this is where the entity limits enter the stage again. We have to chat about a new entity limit, the DEL, the drawing entity limit. Super Mario Maker 2 is only able to draw a certain amount of parts at a certain time. Whenever a Mecha Koopa dies, it breaks into several different parts that slowly drop down. We can make them descend even slower by killing them in the nighttime theme. So slow, as a matter of fact, fact that the game isn't able to draw the Mecha Koopa parts anymore. Those parts are in a separate entity limit than the enemies themselves. The game can still draw Koopalings, but it can't draw any more body part particles. We can clearly see this. The game draws the actual enemy spawning just fine, but the second the enemy dies, then it turns invisible. This drawing limit is full. And as it turns out, ladies and gentlemen, this is the limit that keys live in. Once this limit is full, the game can't draw a newly spawned in key graphic. The key, however, still exists. It just can't be drawn anymore. What happened in the level before was that we hit a question block containing a key outside off screen. Once the DEL was full, this spawned in a key that the game could no longer draw, or in other words, the key became invisible. There are also a couple of other small things that can break once this limit is full. Coin blocks, for example, can't spawn in new coins, or cursed keys can't spawn in Phantos anymore. And I know what you're currently thinking. Has science gone too far? To which I'd like to reply that Mecha Koopas are mechanical constructs and can't feel pain. I hope. So is anything of this useful outside of maybe troll levels? Well, probably not, but it sure as heck is interesting. The next thing that we're going to take a look at is the Shino pipe tech. A little interesting glitch at first that can be used to create a ton of different effects, including swimming in the air, micro time traveling shenanigans, and teleporting through walls. But before we take a look at our final Super Mario Maker trick of the day, we first have to chat about something different. Something that has nothing to do with Super Mario Maker 2 itself, but much more with how Nintendo handles the communities that form around their games. Switch in a Switch is a fun little game in which we place a small figure on a switch who is able to control another figure on a switch by walking over the buttons. This figure is able to control again another figure in a switch on a quest to reach an apple. The game is weird. Hammer is a fun little bullet helm shoot 'em up game where we control a small shooting spaceship shooting at other small spaceships. It's tight, it's fast, and at least in my humble opinion, it's a lot of fun. The game especially, Taria, is a small little puzzle game. In Taria, our chumps lower the platform we're standing on while raising both to our sides. This results in a cool little puzzle experience where we have Scala's Library is a fun little puzzle game where we investigate a library while we're trying to solve the mystery of how to unlock. We play as an agile little hero, jumping over platforms, slowly descending into the difficult background layers of the game. The game is surprisingly fluid and challenging, while also... So what did we just watch? Well, here's the thing. All the games that we just took a look at were made in Game Builder Garage, a game creation game that Nintendo released about 2 years ago. It's a lovingly crafted little tool, full with fun little features that are easy to learn but provide a ton of depth once mastered. It's a great tool for kids to learn about game design and how programming works, while also being a ton of fun for adults. The game just allows us to hop in and prototype a bunch of fun little ideas for games and to share them with the world. It's a really fun game that I believe flew below a lot of people's radar for a very simple reason. Nintendo did everything in their power to make sure that the game was dead on arrival. So first, the game didn't get any marketing at all. They just kind of put it out there and then forgot about it. But second, and much more importantly, they released the game without a crucial feature. The game has absolutely no way to find and share games online. The game has no online level sharing hub. While it is possible to play games made by other people, it is only possible to find them by entering the direct ID of the level. It's as if Super Mario Maker 2 had no way to play levels online, but to enter the code to a stage directly. There is literally no other tool to share levels in this game. This means that whenever we create a cool game, we're pretty much stuck with it ourselves. Outside of advertising our stage on the net, there's no way to get anyone to play our game. But even worse, there's also no way to find games to play ourselves. You know, games like Hammer or whatever this is called, are a ton of fun. I'm sure there are hundreds of games like them that were created over the past 2 years that no one is able to find because Nintendo made the baffling decision to release the game without a core feature. So why are we waffling about Game Builder Garage in a video about new features and developments in Super Mario Maker 2, one might ask? Well, because even though the game launched missing some of the most essential features, it nonetheless gathered a community that cares for it and that created tons of amazing things in it. There are hundreds of great games out there. Psychro did his thing and created developed glitch templates that allow to create things in a game that otherwise wouldn't have been possible, and the community even decided to pick up what Nintendo dropped, which finally brings us to the reason why we're chatting about Game Builder Garage in 2023, because the community finally picked up the ball that Nintendo dropped and created a level sharing hub themselves. The website currently on screen that just released the other day. This site automatically pulls all games off of Nintendo servers and makes it possible to finally explore games and to find interesting games to play online. It finally adds the missing feature to Game Builder Garage. The site is in Japanese, but Google Translate does an exceptional job translating it. So if anyone has been toying around with the idea of getting into Game Builder Garage, now is an exceptionally good time for that. Psychro's lovely Discord server also features a great channel focused on the game that is a great and welcoming place for people new to the game. And with this, let's return to our beloved Mushroom Kingdom. Let's break a couple of things. This here, ladies and gentlemen, is the setup for one of the craziest glitches in the history of Super Mario Maker. And yes, the basic setup is nothing but a spring, a glass pipe, and a mushroom behind it. Check this out. Here Mario finds himself trapped in a seemingly impossible room. The only way to leave this room again is through this door. But this door is unreachable, since it is behind the wall. So how does Mario escape this little trap? Well, as it turns out, the solution to this room is actually surprisingly simple. All that Mario has to do is to grab the spring, enter the pipe with it, grab the mushroom, and return back into the pipe the second he devoured the delicious shroom. So whenever Mario eats a mushroom, something interesting happens. The game stops for a second to show the animation of Mario growing. This is called a lag frame. During this lag frame, parts of the game pause. What happens in our surprisingly simple example is that Mario eats the mushroom the second he returns into the pipe. He enters a pipe during a lag frame, which has a really interesting consequence. It causes Mario to retain a bit of control while in the pipe. It allows him to drop the item he's holding while piping and to even leave the pipe midway through the trip, which is also the solution on how to escape our seemingly impossible room. Hooray! Alright, so on the first glance this appears to be a fun little trick that allows for tons of different fun little shenanigans, you know? If you drop a bob-omb while riding through the pipe, the bob-omb forgets its purpose in life, it just stops to explode. It will just sit there, deeply in thought, doing nothing for eternity. We can use the glitch to get Mario stuck in a pipe, or we can build a small glitch puzzle stage around this mechanic. Simple stuff like this here. This is what the glitch appears to be on the surface. But there is another layer to this glitch, a second layer, a much more interesting one, because it is not only glass pipes that glitch out if we enter them during a lag frame. Normal pipes do as well, with even weirder effects. So check this out. Here we have another seemingly impossible room. This time our plumber is rocking his Super Mario Bros. 2 outfit. There is a gigantic bullet bill and a path towards the pipe. The pipe is set up in a way that guarantees that we always devour a mushroom when entering it, causing a lag frame. On the other side of the pipe, there is nothing but a gaping abyss and a door on the other side too far for Mario to reach. How is Mario supposed to ever reach this door? Well, by doing something unexpected. While wearing a Super Mario Bros. 2 outfit, Mario is able to pick up enemies and to carry them around. Usually, when Mario enters a pipe while carrying an enemy in the Super Mario Bros. 2 suit, the enemy just goes poof and disappears. Usually. But if Mario enters a pipe while carrying an enemy during a lag frame, this is not the case. In this case, Mario actually takes the enemy with him, which is also the solution to our little, seemingly impossible room setup. Mario just has to kidnap the huge bullet bill. Hooray! But we're just getting started here. Here we have another setup that allows us to enter a pipe during a lag frame. This time, the pipe drops us into a queso trap. We just fall down a shaft and even trigger a queso block above us while doing so. How evil. Luckily, Mario isn't doomed to drop down into this abyss for the rest of his lives. Instead, he can do something actually surprisingly simple. He can grab the spring while entering the pipe. If Mario now decides to throw the spring while he's entering the pipe, then he leaves the pipe without the spring again. And then he travels back in time and leaves the pipe again. That's literally what happens. Using this trick we were able to survive even this deadly trap. Hooray! But that's not even the weirdest thing that this little glitch makes possible. For the weirdest things, we need assist from our thunderous brother. Thunder! We need Luigi. The L stands for winner. If we enter a pipe during a lag frame while in multiplayer, it suddenly becomes possible to do something even more ridiculous. It becomes possible to murder Mario while he travels back in time, giving us a zombified Mario version in return. Check this out. Here we have yet another setup that allows us to enter a pipe during a lag frame. This time we're accompanied by our great little brother, Luigi. This time it takes even longer before the transition happens. Time in which we stay in control over Mario. Once we leave the pipe, Mario is led into a trap. He's murdered immediately. he's dead now. And now he travels back in time and leaves the pipe again. This Mario might look like Mario, but it ain't normal Mario anymore. Mario is now Zombie Mario, and Zombie Mario has a bunch of interesting properties. So first, bumpers don't interact with him anymore, they just, ignore him. But weirdest of all, if we jump onto Luigi, we become stuck on our brother's nose. We can't leave the nose anymore without Luigi running into a block. But it gets even weirder. If we do this glitch in the new Super Mario Bros. Style, then Luigi is able to carry us around while we're zombified. If Luigi runs into a block while carrying us, we start to randomly glitch towards the ground. But if Luigi performs a whirl before, this is, for whatever reason, no longer the case. If Luigi whirled before, Zombie Mario transforms into Ghost Mario and suddenly doesn't care about walls anymore. Mario is still able to shoot fireballs, but that's pretty much it. If Luigi now drops Mario, Mario successfully teleported through walls to areas he isn't supposed to be. Hooray! But there is one final, neat trick that is possible because of this pipe glitch. The weirdest glitch of them all. We once again murder Mario right before he travels back in time in order to zombify him. But this time he gets zombified next to water and a fire flower. Our zombified plumber devours the flower and takes a bath. Everything is working as intended. Until Mario tries to leave the water again, because then he just keeps on swimming and swimming. Okay, we have to put ourselves into Mario's position for a second. Today Mario got entrapped in several rooms that were seemingly impossible to escape. He went through doors only to fall into an endless abyss on the other side. We dropped thousands and thousands of dead Mecha Koopa parts onto Mario today, and we even broke his clown car. We murdered him several times just to zombify him, and we sent him through time over and over again. Mario endured all of this without complaining once. But now, to top it all off, we even made him wet. It's, just too much. Mario can't take this stuff anymore. He's tilled, he's angry, he's wet, he needs to get his anger out into the world. He really needs to throw a fireball. This is what happens if Mario now throws a fireball while leaving the water. He explodes. He starts to throw fireballs like he never before threw fireballs. He fills the screen with fire flower, firepower, power-up fireball balls. He completely escalates. Hooray! So here we have it, a quick overview over the most interesting new discoveries in tech in Super Mario Maker 2. Again, a huge shout out to Psychro and Lewis, as well as every single person in Psychro's lovely Discord server for helping with this video. Shout out to a Japanese Super Mario Maker 2 creator called Shino, who found tons of incredibly cool Mario Maker tech, including the time traveling pipes, and shout out to BB Mario Maker 2 for discovering tons of things as well. Finally, a huge thanks to all my fuzzyful Patreons, whose names should scroll by right now. Those lovely human beings are the main reason that videos like this one and the content we do around on the other channel can exist on YouTube. Honestly, I can't thank all of you enough. I'm honestly completely overwhelmed by how much support the channel gathered in such a short time frame. Thank you so much. You can learn more about why I started a Patreon at the end of the Hollow Knight video over on the Ceave Perspective channel. For those that missed this little piece of info, there is now another channel where we take in-depth looks at different aspects of great games. There's already over an hour of Tears of the Kingdom and over an hour of Hollow Knight live there. So if this sounds like something you might enjoy, up you go. We'll do Majora's Mask next year. Finally, the Majora's Mask video is going to take a bit longer than the last couple of videos because I'm getting married tomorrow, if you're watching this video on release date. Would you believe it? If I were to work on videos during my honeymoon, my newly found wife probably strangles me while sleeping, which is something I'm generally trying to avoid as it would delay the video even further. Hooray! Thank you so much for watching this little video, I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, and maybe you feel especially thunder today and want to hit the subscribe button as well. Finally, if you really loved the video and want to make sure that content like this can survive on the platform, then there is the option to support the channel on Patreon as well. I hope that all of you have a wonderful day and to see you soon. Goodbye!